it really comes down to living your life as close to natural as you can, as if you were an animal plopped on Earth.
Mm.
What would we be doing? And if you came across a ribeye steak and a pile of kale growing out of the ground, what would you eat as an animal? You could say, is my natural diet plants? Plants have a lot of toxins in them. They have oxalates, lectins, phytates. Plants are using biochemical weaponry to survive so that they can try to ward off the predators that will eat it. And so people say, well, why don't you eat vegetables? I haven't had a fruit or a vegetable in almost 16
Hey,
years.
well, welcome to the Your Body's Way podcast, Lisa. This is so fabulous to meet you, and I've been wanting to meet you for a long time because I've been following your work on the carnivore diet, and you just celebrate it. You just make it seem like it's the diet to be on because you've had such a great experience with it, and it's made such an impact on you and the people that you work with. So, big warm welcome. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you so much, Tamara, for having me. It's great to be here because I have to say, my calling in life has become this. I'm just so passionate to help spread the word, or let's just say, give some information to people who have no concept of this ancestral, what I call, Dr. Ken Berry calls it the optimal human or the proper human diet. You could call it the optimal human diet. I have gone through many years as I've been eating this way. It will be almost 16 years this March. I'm realizing not just in the topic of food, but in many, many different lifestyle, um, we'll call them sort of biohacking things, that we're actually told the opposite of what we should be doing. And, we could dabble a little into that if we have time, but, how they tell us to stay out of the sun and put sunscreen on, and nothing could be further from the truth. Keep your sunglasses off. I know that's going to sound crazy to your listeners, but I am an eye doctor of over 32 years. And I'm probably one of a very, very, very select few who will tell you and advise you not to have them on all the time. Our eyes, our brains, our eyes are connected to our brains. So we have receptors in our eyes that are not just there for vision. There's a multitude of different neural connections to our brain. And it's extremely important that our brains get the message from the photons from the sun. And when you block it with sunglasses day after day in the daytime, you are sending the signal to your brain that it's nighttime. And it messes up your circadian rhythm. It actually perpetuates sunburn and skin sensitivity because, again, you're telling your brain that the sun's not there and it's nighttime. When the sunglasses are off, you are able to prepare with the melanin and you'll tan. And many people on the carnivore diet will say that in the past, just from eliminating seed oils, from that end of it, they are no longer burning, but also getting all this other information about how it's astonishing how much we've been told that's incorrect information. And standard sunscreen is toxic,
Mm.
and I would contend that with all of the years that all of these sunscreens have been out, the skin cancer rate has just exploded higher and higher. So how does that make sense other than
Mhm.
thinking, the sunscreens themselves are actually toxic? And they've done studies where a week after applying one um, episode of putting sunscreen on, a week later, they can detect it in the person's blood. So it's just, and so I became so outspoken on so many things.
You
in
are.
addition to the
Yeah.
carnivore way of eating, because all of this is as important as what we put in our mouth. And I've said that, we have to decide everything that goes in your mouth, it either leads to health or harm. And it's up to you to figure out what the health part is and what the harm part is. And also for our eyes,
Mm.
putting into the eyes light, natural light, sunlight, moonlight, firelight,
Hmm.
and blocking what doesn't belong in our eyes, which is all of the toxic blue light that comes off of our smartphones, our tablets, our laptops, our recessed lights, pretty much all the LEDs and all of the fluorescent lighting does not belong in our eyes. And so I'm now pretty diligent about I wear blue blocker glasses all during the day on when I'm on the screens. But this you could go down a lot of rabbit holes,
You
but
could, I mean, I could listen to you as well talk about all of this stuff for so long because there's so much to cover. Like it's a
yeah,
huge
and it's
topic, but I'm the same as you. I'm on this journey as well, and like I just said to you before we started recording, this podcast sort of evolves with me. So I'm in a place at the moment where I'm also looking at light. I'm looking at seasonal eating because food is information as well. Your body wants to know where it is in the world, and then like obviously sunlight and sunscreens. Like I live in Grand Cayman and I don't wear sunscreen. I go for beach walks and I make sure that I stay out of the sun as soon as I can sense that I've been out for a bit too long. I just slather on some coconut oil. What do you use on your skin when you go in the
Yeah,
sun?
so coconut oil actually does have a very mild SPF factor to it. So
Apparently
that's
so, yeah.
yeah, and so there are times, of course, if you are, let's say you're invited out on a boat and there's no shade and you're going to be out for 4 or 5 hours. Look, I'm no dummy. I'm not going to scorch my skin because there's a
Mm.
point where you have to be smart about this and either seek shade or cover up, or use sunscreen. And there are natural beef tallow
Mhm.
sunscreens.
I was going to
And
ask you about that, yeah.
yeah, so it's basically beef tallow and there's zinc mixed in. And yeah, they have sunscreens up to about a 35 SPF for that, but I rarely am in that situation. I do spend a lot of time outdoors. I know this is a podcast and I
Mm.
guess not videoed, but if
Mm.
your listeners could see me, I'm not full of like freckles and wrinkles from 60 years of sun worshiping. Um, but I do it pretty smart. It's early morning, it's later in the day, and I do, of course, still try to get midday sun, but I'm
Mm.
not out in it for 3 hours straight.
Mm.
Um, and I
Well, the
will,
good thing is this is YouTube as well, so
oh,
the
good.
YouTube
Okay.
people will be able to see you and to
Okay.
see that you said that you're coming up to the age 60
Next
and you
week,
look
yes.
incredible, incredible. So that says a lot to the lifestyle that you've had for the last 16 years, you say?
Yeah. And, everybody is, I'll just say it, brainwashed to believe that the sun causes cancer. And the sun actually protects you from a multiple different types of cancer. And don't be so quick to continue to listen to the narrative, and research. And it's kind of hard to research though, because if you type in, does the sun cause skin cancer? You're going to get 50 million, citations from the American Dermatology Association that says, of course. But you can dig deep. You can go on Rumble. There's even information on YouTube, but things get censored. But yeah, we have to, you know, it really comes down to living your life as close to natural as you can, as if you were an animal plopped on Earth.
Mm.
What would we be doing? And if you came across a ribeye steak and a pile of kale growing out of the ground, what would you eat as an animal. You could say, is my natural diet plants? Plants have a lot of toxins in them. They have oxalates, lectins, phytates. Plants are using biochemical weaponry to survive so that they can try to ward off the predators that will eat it. And so that, people say, well, why don't you eat vegetables? I haven't had a fruit or a vegetable in almost 16 years.
Wow.
And the reason fruits, no, because I had a long-standing, lifelong sugar and carb and processed food disordered eating addiction. And it was through finding this way of eating that I realized that I'm supposed to be eating fatty meat, seafood, and eggs, and drink water. And it's incredible when you listen to the stories and the testimonies and so many people healing so many diseases
Yeah.
because our bodies are here to evolve. And once you remove the toxins, and there's many people who do not tolerate many, many forms of plant matter,
Yeah.
and people who've had Crohn's and IBS and all sorts of autoimmune issues, arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, skin issues are autoimmune issues, thyroid issues are autoimmune issues. It stems from the food that you're eating.
Yeah.
And, I say, give it a try. It's worth 90 days of your life to potentially change your life because it is truly life changing. It's
Yeah.
not easy because we socialize around food and everything is about food with your
Mhm.
friends, your family, your coworker. It's like, what are we having? Where are we going? What are we eating? And traditions and holidays. And it becomes very difficult to really stay on course and stay consistent, but it's truly what's changed my life and changed so many people because um, we're not actually realizing that nuts are inflammatory. They're high in omega-6. They're not really good for you. I could give an excuse or an exception, give a pass to macadamia nuts because they are the lowest on the omega-6 ranking, and I would give them a total pass if somebody has to have nuts. But you know what? I can't eat just one handful of nuts. I do not have sober behavior around nuts.
Wow.
So that's a whole different issue with some people. And I like to talk about it because there are a lot of people that suffer from sugar addiction, and it kind of ties right in with alcohol because they are really processed one and the same. And many people who come off alcohol cross addict onto sugar, food, processed food. And, if you're a chips and cracker and pasta and rice and bread and potato kind of person, that's no different than the sugar addict because those turn right into sugar. There's amylase enzyme in our saliva. And as soon as you put that food in your mouth and start chewing, the bread, the cracker, the chip, it starts converting, breaking down into simple sugars. And so, it really has to come down to taking a look at yourself and say, am I in optimal health? Am I metabolically in good health? Am I lean? Am I off all medication and I have no diagnosis? I would say you're doing a pretty good job then with, how you're nourishing yourself. Although, there are some people that are out there talking about people who are skinny fat, meaning they don't look overweight, but they actually have internal visceral fat that's very not healthy. They don't have good enough muscle mass. And those people are in danger of heart disease, cancer, having autoimmune issues, even though they might on the outside look healthy. But it really comes down to opening your mind
Mhm.
because you have to be open-minded to this because people think I'm crazy. Some people, but
Right. I
oh,
can
let
see
me tell
that.
you,
Yeah, I can see
16
why
years.
people, because that's how I feel when I talk about carnivore. I feel like I get this kind of judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like people rolling their eyes like, yeah, right. How could you possibly think that's healthy? That's crazy. If
Yeah,
everybody knows you have to eat fruits and vegetables and lots of fiber, I
yeah.
haven't had a speck of fiber in 16 years. I go to the bathroom just fine. I actually believe the non-digestible cellulose matter of plant, any type of plant is actually abrasive to our colon and causative of polyps and issues that people talk about how you need the fiber to prevent that. And,
Mhm.
I'll say it's really just the opposite.
I have to say, I've been so excited about this conversation, and I've been trying to have this conversation for quite some time. Someone who um, talks about carnivore, who lives carnivore, and especially a female, because I've interviewed male carnivores. It's been a really interesting journey for me because I have been eating fairly well for quite a few years now. I have been kind of avoiding sugar as much as possible and just trying to look after my diet as much as possible. I had a binge eating disorder in my 20s, so I know how that feels for you because I know you went through the same thing. But I have to say, I'm a nutritionist and I always kind of scoffed at the idea of the carnivore diet because I think out of all the diets, I don't know if you agree, but it has the most judgment around it and the most people who are just kind of like, oh, that doesn't sound great for your health at all because it's so drastic. So I always brushed it aside. And I was just like, oh, I'm not even going to look at that. But doing this podcast and the carnivore people that I've been talking to from the carnivore community, it is incredible. When you open that door, what you find behind it is really incredible. It's like, wow, people are healing from their autoimmune diseases. I mean, one of my guests, Phil Escott, do you know Phil? Phil?
So
Yeah,
I've
right. So he obviously he was struggling, had debilitating arthritis, but he, is in complete remission because he just eats lamb, beef, salt, and water. And it's just incredible. And there's so many cases like that. But then also, when you were speaking about plants and how they are toxic, again, people will scoff at that. But if you just look at it for a second and you open that door, you will see floods of people who have a story to tell about how, once they cut out spinach, their joints felt much better. And once they cut out almonds, they felt so much better about themselves. And um, it's just it's a whole different world that people need to look into. So I have to say I'm dabbling in carnivore at the moment. I haven't gone full, but my question to you is, would someone who just wants to be healthy, just wants to, feel good, do we need to go on to carnivore like full? Is it for everybody?
Well, asking me and being in this, space for as long as I have and coached thousands of people and been around a lot of medical professionals that are in this. And, you know, the carnivores now, there's neuroscientists, orthopedic surgeons. Dr. Kiltz is a reproductive endocrinologist, fertility expert. There's even cardiologists that eat this way. Dr. Sean Baker is an orthopedic surgeon. Um, there's Dr. Sean O'Mara. And for this many medical professionals to research and decide for ourselves that this is the healthiest way to nourish our bodies. I mean, there's something pretty powerful just in that. And, you know, people really, it's very hard when we are brought up our whole life with the food pyramid, and it's it's cognitive dissonance to think that eating fatty red meat, which we've also been conned into believing saturated fat causes heart disease, which there's nothing farther from the truth. You can read Nina Teicholz's book.
Mhm.
Um, and there's even books on fiber. Fiber Menace is a book about how fiber is absolutely a non-essential component of
I need
food.
to get that one. I've been recommended that one before. So you're the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
person. I need to get that
Yeah.
one.
And then talk about the corrupt pharmaceutical industry and food industry that's involved in the message that you are being told and the message of pretty much everything that, well, you need to be on a statin, your LDL's going up. Guess what? Having a higher LDL is a lower death rate and it's healthier for you. So somebody will say, oh, I tried the carnivore diet, but my LDL started going up and my doctor panicked me and I stopped it. It must not be for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Maybe your LDL is supposed to be higher. What makes you, and but the person will say this, oh my gosh, it cured my depression, my anxiety, and the psoriasis I had. And I'm also off my diabetic medication, but oh no, no, my doctor said my LDL's getting too high. Go off of that diet. What would make somebody think that eating this way would heal all these other parts, but attack your heart for the worse? It
Right.
makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
And so, and the whole statin scam, that's a whole entire podcast and people can go research that. Um,
Well,
but the,
can I ask you, Lisa,
yeah.
because I know there's different versions of the carnivore diet out there. So what is your version and what is the carnivore diet? Just say someone's interested and they're like, okay, so tell me more. What should someone
Yes.
be eating?
Well, so basically it's referring to eating from the animal kingdom, eating, I say, if it was once alive, I eat it.
Mm.
If it had a mother, I eat it. So oysters are fine. Lobster's fine. Lobster had a mother. Clams are fine. Um, and eggs coming from a chicken are fine. And pretty much ruminant meat is the most nutrient dense, which is
Hmm.
beef, lamb, and venison. They're meat from animals that have multiple rumen stomachs. So it's also elk and bison. So if you could say, if I had to choose which meats to eat, that would be more ideal than somebody who says, well, I'm going to eat some chicken and some eggs and call that carnivore. I
Mm.
wouldn't suggest that because, I mean, you could, and that to me, that would be a lot better than a vegan diet.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so basically, I say meat, seafood, eggs, water,
Mm.
and limited dairy if you tolerate it. Most people tolerate butter. If you don't, some tolerate ghee, but butter and ghee are really a different entity than cheese because cheese has different proteins in it and some don't tolerate it. If you have any autoimmune issue or if you're looking to lose weight, you should also eliminate dairy. Sour cream, heavy cream, and cheese are typically used in many people's version of the carnivore diet, but it is recommended if I'm, coaching somebody and they have certain issues, then I just say, we're gonna take the dairy out, and that's tough because cheese is addictive,
It
believe it or
is.
not.
It's very satiating as well.
And
Yeah.
there's casomorphines in it that will convert to opioids. And it actually, go ahead and Google cheese and addiction, and you can get a bunch of information. And there's some,
I don't know why that
there's
makes me giggle. Just cheese diction. Like, I don't know why. Like, you don't hear that
yeah, well,
often.
gosh,
Yeah.
because all I need to do, if I have it in my fridge, I can slice it and actually fry any type of cheese and make it into a beautiful hot,
Oh, stop. You're making
gooey
me hungry. Stop.
cracker. Yeah, it's crazy. You can bake it. It's,
Mm.
it's ridiculous. But yeah, so basically my diet is ruminant meat, some seafood. I will have on occasion some salmon roe, some salmon, some sardines, because there's a whole group of people who do what's called a sardine challenge, which you eat nothing but sardines for 3 days and have remarkable results with your glucose going down, your ketones going up, and weight dropping off without hunger because you get to
Oh,
eat as many sardines
oh,
as
I've
you
never
want.
heard of
It's
that.
a
Have
whole
you done
thing,
that before?
the whole thing. Oh yes, I did. I've done a 7-day sardine challenge. I've done 3 days. It's incredible. And I'm not a fan of sardines, let me be frank. Had never had one. I'm grossed out. You open the thing and these fishies are there, and sometimes they got the tail on, even though you
Mhm.
don't feel it or taste it. It's just, I couldn't imagine it. But it's very, very remarkable what it does when you say, okay, when I'm hungry. I get to eat however many I want, one tin, two, three, whatever it takes to satiate me. And then you go about your day, and when hunger hits, you can have as many as you want again. Well, for me, I started to learn and came up with this term, sardine hunger. Like, yeah, I'm hungry. Do I want a can of? Nah, I'm not that hungry.
Okay.
I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to wait it out a little bit. I'm not actually sardine hungry. So it's very interesting. And if anybody's wants to look into that further, just go into the YouTube search box and type in sardine challenge. And it became very popular. Dr. Boz originally had a whole, like 1,000 people do it and showing remarkable results that their glucose and ketones for somebody who has a little bit of insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction were better than water fasting.
Wow.
So I know it's pretty incredible. So yeah, so for me, I like to dabble in these things to experience them and be able to coach better about them. And yeah, it's really, really interesting. And then I've actually also and I'm telling you, my health journey has gone on so many tangents with just I feel like my cross addiction has been on the next epiphany of that I'm going to go like, oh wow, what next thing am I going to research and what truth am I going to uncover? And so I started looking into dry fasting because I was
Mhm.
exposed to it. And dry fasting is just what it sounds. You literally do not put a single thing of anything in your mouth, no water, no drink of any type, and no food. And dry fasting, 1 day of dry fasting is equal to 3 days of water fasting.
Why is
Uh,
that? Because I've heard this before, that it's more
yeah,
effective than water
yeah. And
fasting.
I just 2 days ago ended a 4-day dry fast, and I could not believe my ketones got up to 7.1. I felt
Oh,
great. In
wow.
4 days, I lost 6 pounds. And it's remarkable that your body actually makes the water it needs because and then you just watch out for dehydration. Go ahead and look into it. There's a whole book written by
Yeah.
Dr. August Dunning called the Phoenix Protocol. And he goes into depth about dry fasting. And the interesting thing is, so, of course, I'm experiencing this and trying to be smart about it. I said, well, aren't you going to be dehydrated? Everybody says you can't live
Yeah,
4 days
I
without
thought
water,
3 days was the cutoff
right?
point.
Yeah, no, people dry fast for 7. I think you can do like 15 days, like
Aren't you
without any.
insanely thirsty, like in the
No,
middle of the night?
no, no. And I'm going to tell you, that was the most bizarre revelation for me is that so looking for signs of dehydration, of course, I'm making sure I am urinating through this and making sure it didn't turn dark orange or
Hmm.
anything weird, right? I can't even believe it. Every day, I wake up in the morning, I pee, pale yellow. I go maybe twice during the day and also again before I go to sleep, wake up, pee again. And I'm like, where the hell's all this water coming from, right? Your body makes the water it needs and uses the oxygen that we breathe combined with the fatty acids from our fat, and makes endogenous water that our body needs and uses. And so that's why it's preferentially very beneficial for fat burning as opposed to
Mm.
water fasting. It has been shown for doing some muscle wasting during the fast, whereas The dry fast, not so much. And I went to the gym during my dry fast. I go out for a 4 to 5 mile walk each day during it. I felt great, but everybody's experience is going to be different. And I've been carnivore for 15 years, so I probably can fast a little bit more efficiently than some others. Sometimes I'll eat just in my day-to-day life. Usually twice a day, sometimes once a day, just depends on the day and what time I eat. And I mainly eat beef, lamb. I like ground lamb, and I will
Me
sprinkle
too.
in some feta cheese. And that's what I just had for breakfast at 9 o'clock this morning was a pound of ground lamb with maybe 2 ounces of feta cheese sprinkled in. And I ate the whole thing. And
Mm,
I won't be hungry for probably another 6 to 8 hours. And then I'll have a little dinner and be on my way. And life is good. And I people say, well, don't you get tired of it? Aren't you bored? And I'm
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
not bored. You know why? Because I can make brisket, I can make oxtail, I can make skirt steak, I can make flanken ribs, little lamb loins or leg of lamb, or there's so much variety.
Yeah. And
I
different
tend
ways to
to,
cook it, slow cook,
yes,
barbecue,
yes, yes.
grill. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say, that's not boring. It's delicious. And I'll
Mm.
tell you, I say to them, what's boring? You know what would be really boring to me? Sitting in a doctor's office waiting room. That's boring. And standing online at the pharmacy waiting to get my prescriptions. That would be awfully boring to me. So choose your boring,
Mm.
if you want to call something boring, it is what you make of it. The the one thing that I will say, some people get such remarkable results from this, and they go, "Wow, carnivore for life! This is amazing. I will never go back to eating bread and chips and pizza and cookies and ice cream and even salads." Although people say, "Well, I miss my salad." No, you miss the salad dressing, that you put on the lettuce, but um, you know, I I will say that those people, they're so motivated and it's going great. And then next thing you know, social interactions really derail people
That's
because,
right. Because I'm sure a lot
yeah,
of the people around them are saying this is crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're crazy. What are you doing? You're going to have
Mm.
a heart attack.
So
So
extreme. It's an extreme diet. So,
yeah,
people
it
get a lot of
seems
pushback.
extreme, but you know what's extreme to me now? Like, I'm eating what a human animal plopped on earth would eat. We would
Hmm.
hunt the wildebeest and we would feast and we would go to the spring and get water. Like, this is natural, right? You
Exactly.
know what's a freaky way to eat? When I
Mm.
look at what everybody else is now eating that comes in a box, a bag, a bottle, or a
From
jar.
across the world, flown over.
Yeah, and it's incredible to think that that is what's considered normal or the standard atrocious diet, SAD, because
Mhm.
we call it the standard American diet, but I call it the standard atrocious diet because it's worldwide, wherever whatever country you're in. But you have to start thinking differently that I'm not the freak here. I
Mm.
am eating a normal, natural diet. And it's funny how nobody said anything when I was eating junk and pizza and cookies and eating the birthday cake at the event.
Exactly.
And
That's considered normal now, which
yeah,
is
so
crazy.
nobody would say anything to me about my heart then. Now all of a sudden, when I'm eating this way, now all of a sudden they're concerned for my heart. And heck, this is like the most natural healthy way to eat. And but it's hard because we as humans want to be loved, we want to
Mm.
fit in, we want to feel we're part of the group, part of the tribe. You don't want to feel excluded in any way. And it makes it difficult because somebody says, "Oh, you've got to try this. It's the best you'll ever have." Oh my gosh. What? You're not gonna, come on, you only live once. Are you telling me you're never gonna have a piece of dark chocolate again? And I'm like, I don't know, but right now I choose not to.
Yeah.
Um,
you've got to be really, really
Yeah.
dedicated to get through 16 years not having touched a fruit, a
Yeah.
vegetable.
Well, and part of it is I do have certain comebacks now that just make it simple and easy. I'm very kind and pleasant. Unless somebody has a real true, and I can pick it up very quickly, a true genuine interest in what I'm doing. Most people are there to just sort of be and play devil's advocate to you or to try to negate what you're doing, right? Um, but if somebody says you're really serious about this, I mean, are you still doing that meat eating thing? I mean, aren't you concerned about a heart attack? And then because they'll say, I'm concerned for you. And I say, thank you so much for your concern, but I've never felt better. Meanwhile, I'm the one, I could lift up my shirt and to show you my little bit of definition I have on my stomach, but there's not many other 60-year-olds who can do that. And I just say, look, I've never felt better, but really, thank you for your concern. And that pretty much stops it. And the other thing that I tell people to say is, if you're having something pushed on you, like, oh, you just got to try this, it's amazing. And then I say, oh, thank you so much. I just realized I don't feel good when I eat that, so I don't eat it anymore. And nobody can negate your subjective
Yeah, how it makes you feel. It's like they can't
state.
tell you how you feel when you
Yeah.
eat
And
something.
if they care about you and love you, they're not going to say, well, I don't want you to feel good, so try it anyway, you
Mm,
know? And the other thing too is you can just say, oh, especially I tell when people I get my member tribe. I have a carb sober community. And we discuss alcohol, and it is a toxin to the nth degree to our
agreed.
bodies,
Yeah,
liver, and it increases your risk of 7 different types of cancer. It's actually a carcinogen, but we're not, of course, that's hidden too. But people are like, but it's so hard. I always go out with these people and we always drink and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you make the choice. It's, and the fact that it really does derail you from staying on track with carnivore because your resistance goes down. And next thing you know, you're eating nachos grande and laughing it up. But, I say, just come into the event, and just say, oh, thanks. No, I'm doing this crazy 90-day challenge. No alcohol for me. And people respect that actually. And it's become a little bit more of an in thing to give up alcohol or at least do dry January or they have dry October. I don't know what the months are, but my group members, I tell them that's your little mantra when you're in a situation where everybody's drinking around you. Just like, oh, gosh, I know it's really tough, but I'm doing this 90-day challenge. But you know what? I feel great.
yeah. It's so good to have that backup to make sure that, you feel safe when you're going into social situations. But one thing that I find when I up my protein and fat intake and reduce my carb intake, that's sort of where I'm at the moment. I find that my appetite reduces significantly. Now, for a lot of people, that would be a great thing because like I'm trying to lose weight, and yes, I feel like I don't need to snack as much anymore, and I'm eating less in general, which is great. Um, but for some people like myself, I find it difficult to get an appetite, at all during the day sometimes when I'm eating so much meat. Um, I feel like I don't fancy breakfast, and then, lunch comes around and I'm like, oh, I'll just have a little bit. And before I know it, I've had a little bit of steak maybe. And then when it comes to the evening, I'll have a little small meal there as well. And, I just feel like I don't have as much of an appetite. So when it comes to calories, then getting enough energy for the day, and especially for women who, need energy, especially in the reproductive years. I mean, is that a thing? Like, do women need to be eating more calories than men? Is it more important that women get those calories? And if so, how can a woman ensure that she's getting enough food on the carnivore diet? Is that a thing? Are you finding that in your community?
Um, It's a much smaller percent
Right,
because
okay.
most people come into this wanting to lose weight because
Right.
they come from a background of overeating.
Mm,
Um, but for the energy part of it, um, yeah, you do need to, I always say honor your hunger signal, but there are many disrupted hunger signals out there, and we could get into ghrelin and leptin and morning sunlight and circadian rhythms. And if you honor that, where you block artificial lights, and I'm going to tell you, especially things like going into a store, going into a gym,
Mhm.
all of the lighting is toxic to us because it's heavy on the blue light spectrum. It does not belong in our eyes, and it disrupts your circadian rhythm. I don't know how your sleep is, but
I
it
wake
it
up
does
about
both.
once a night and, I lie there for about half an hour maybe sometimes.
Yeah. So, we should be trying to go to sleep closer to sundown. And so, I know I go to bed normally around 9 o'clock and wake up about usually about 5.
Mm.
Um, so that's 8 hours straight. But that didn't come about until I actually really paid a close attention to this whole circadian rhythm thing every single day. Pretty much the first thing I do when I get up is go at, well, it's actually dark here now at 5 o'clock. So I put on my blue blockers and I read with a little amber light. But within the first 2 hours of the sunrise, I get outside. I spend at least, if it's a real bright sunny sunrise,
Mm.
10, 15 minutes is plenty. If it's a cloudy day, 20, 30 minutes, I hang out there to get that early sunrise and then expose your eyes to sunset. But during the day, put on amber amber glasses when you're in a gym, on a computer, at your laptop, on your phone, the blocking the blue light, and it will start to change your appetite. And I'm going to tell you, I was always somebody who was never like, wake up and like, okay, let's have breakfast. I'd be like,
Mm. Yeah,
I never
same.
think of putting food in my mouth. But now, after doing this for the past like 3 months now, I typically by 8, 9 o'clock, I have a full breakfast. And like I said, 9 this morning, I ate a pound of lamb. And yeah, my appetite has changed, and
Is that
timing of it
because your
has changed.
body understands what time it is? It's like, right, it's morning because you've blocked all the blue lights, you've been outside, so your body understands that it's morning time and it's actually, no, it's time to eat. Is that what it's all about?
It's natural and normal for an animal to need to eat upon awakening, to have
Mm.
energy to collect more food and to go about the day. And yeah,
That's
it
really
has to do
interesting
with,
because I always thought blocking blue light was something for the evening only. I didn't realize it was an all day thing.
it does not know, just think to yourself, no man-made artificial light belongs in my eyes at all. So what goes in my eyes is sunshine, moon, moonlight,
Mm.
fire, candle.
Mm.
And other than that, all bulbs now, so incandescent bulbs are the healthiest light because it's full spectrum, which they have, of course, they are outlawing for us all people who want them, which we all should want the incandescents because everything is skewed to the blue light and it's toxic. So TV, phone, laptop, tablet, any light bulb that we have now, most of the light bulbs are LEDs. So I've actually changed out the light bulbs in my house. I have those yellow bug lights, or I have amber lights, and I also have, so if you, this is
Oh
a,
yeah.
this has, you can see it goes to what all
Mm.
that, but it has the amber, and this is just a
What would
rechargeable
you
clip.
call that if someone wanted to get that for their desk? What
Um,
sort of light is that? They could search
just
it.
if you search amber
Amber
light,
light. And
yeah.
so really someone should have a pair of blue blocking sunglasses as a staple to their health, their appetite, their circadian rhythm. Like we all should be doing it because our light is toxic, right?
Absolutely.
Are there
And,
any brands you recommend? Anything that you prefer the most?
yeah,
Because
you know
I'm
what?
always stuck on brands. I never know what to get.
Yeah, and you know what? With the blue light blocking glasses, um, I personally wouldn't mess around with just a random thing labeled blue block glasses on Amazon.
But yeah, that's
uh,
what I'm afraid of. That's why I
because
haven't bought any yet.
yeah, they need to be tested because they need to block between 400 and 500 nanometers. So I'll give you a link to the company that I use, and
Please do,
then
yeah.
that, your listeners will get a discount.
Oh.
And then I'll also give you a link to, I have an Amazon list of all my favorite circadian rhythm products. I
Hmm.
have these little motion detector rechargeable night lights. So only at night and only when you move by it, it will glow red so that you can see in the evening. Because that ends up being the biggest hurdle I have found, is that it gets so early. Like here, it's dark, it's black by five
Where are
o'clock
you?
in New Jersey.
Right. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
gets
and
dark.
it is pitch black by 5 o'clock now. And so now I'm thinking, all right, well, technically I could just build a fire in my fireplace and, but it's all of it's difficult to change your lifestyle because we get very comfortable and we like to being on the social media, right? And and I do a lot of work and I do work in the evening, and now I really second guess it. I go, you know what? I'm going to try to get all my work done with my amber glasses on during the day
Mm.
and shut it all down in the evening. I don't watch TV at all, so that's not an issue. But I have a little mini clip-on amber reading light, and now I've discovered the beauty of actual books again and reading a book. But everything it's once you understand the science behind this. And if anybody wants to go deeper into this, listen to a neurosurgeon. He's brilliant, Dr. Jack Cruz. It's
Oh, I
K-R-U,
follow him. Yes,
yeah,
he's very not he's
K-R-U-S-E.
very controversial, as in outspoken. Like he says what he
Yes.
thinks.
Yes,
Yeah.
to decentralize medicine, decentralize currency. He's big into Bitcoin. He's
Yeah.
big into this whole blue light toxicity because he will go into a very detailed explanation of this MK Ultra. And if you want to, listen to what in the past was considered conspiracy theory and no
Mm.
longer conspiracy, but
Yeah.
that the blue light actually dumbs down the population. And that's why casinos have no windows in them and tons of blue lights coming off of the slot machines. And then people are just like zombies there putting their money in.
They pump in
And
oxygen, apparently.
yeah,
So I hear in
yeah.
Vegas.
So it's really interesting. But I've come across articles now that this blue light actually increases your risks of many different types of cancer, increases your risk of macular degeneration and retinal eye disease because it penetrates, it's deep. It's not just, and I know some people could say who's maybe new to this, well, what do you mean blue light? The lights aren't blue.
Mm.
Well, yeah, they're white because it has the whole rest of the spectrum, the amber, yellow, red, orange end of the spectrum is removed. And so it looks like white light, but it's really toxic and it's heavy in the blue wavelength spectrum. And that's why it's really interesting. Once you know this, it's it's so weird. Like if I go out to dinner, and let's say it's 5 p.m. and I'm going to leave my condo, when I go out my condo door, the foyer is blaring with automatic lights I don't have control of. I go down into the parking garage, blaring lights. So guess what? I put on my blue blockers before I leave because it's especially at nighttime, you don't want any lights in your eyes, but especially not the blue light. So yeah, I'm probably
Send me
known
that
as
link, Lisa, to those glasses. I need to
yeah,
buy some
I'm probably
myself.
known as the crazy lady who wears the orange glasses. And
They definitely know you around your area. They're like, oh yeah,
oh
her. We know her.
yeah. You know what? It's great. My health does not care about anybody else's opinion.
I love
So
that.
that's a great saying to remember.
That is. Um, I want to know, do you supplement at all? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because basically, let me give you a bit of backstory. So, I've been talking about the carnivore diet a lot more on my social media, and people have been asking questions, mainly friends. Okay, what is this carnivore diet all about? Shall I give it a go? And I'm like, yes, yes. Now, the main question I get is, but don't we need to supplement with something? What about, constipation, vitamin C? So what do you say to those things?
Yeah, it's all really, really interesting. And I have to say, there is so much conflicting information out there. Like, oh, don't fast, you're going to ruin your hormones. Don't fast, you're going to ruin your metabolism. Fasting's the healthiest thing you could do. You should do 36 hours every week. You should do at least 1 5-day every quarter. It's the best thing for autophagy and clearing out your, dead cells and reaching your stem cell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah,
get
it's
both
hard to
sides
know
and
who
you're
to
like,
believe.
what should I do? To eat or not to eat? That's the question, right? So there's that. And then there's the whole supplementation thing. There's the organ eating thing. There's so much where people are like, I don't know what to do. And they just get frozen about a lot of things. But I just say, think back to naturally man on earth. And we didn't have access to the internet to order electrolytes and to order, whatever vitamins. I say I'm eating the most nutrient dense diet I could possibly eat. If I were vegetarian, absolutely, you have to supplement because you actually need to supplement because there's things found in meat that are essential that you cannot get from a vegetarian diet. But but yeah, so I've gone through all of these years with not supplementing at all, like nothing. And I occasionally eat, like as far as organs, I will occasionally eat liverwurst. I've tried making some chicken liver pate recipes because I'm like, I understand it's healthy. I'm not a big fan, so I'm like, eh.
Like
But there's
liver
different ways around
supplements,
it.
do you like them at all? Do you advocate them?
The
Like
organ
organ
supplements.
meat supplements?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I did a YouTube video. I think I called it Organs 101 on carnivore because um when I went through my early days when this was very, very unknown, uh, the group of people I connected with on a forum called Zeroing In on Health, they were all like, yeah, if they're so repulsive to me and I so dislike them, how could it possibly be so mandatory that I eat them? And so most of the people were like, yeah, I don't bother with it. Some people were like, yeah, I kind of like it. So maybe once or twice a month I eat it. Others love it and good for them, but you can actually overdo it on the vitamin A with how, much is in liver. Um, but so, but I don't discount the nutrient value of it. And I do think it's healthy. I wish I did enjoy it, but there's companies that make liver chips. There's companies that make dehydrated capsule, liver and multi-organ capsules, also just liver, heart, spleen, kidney, all of that, right? Um, so I decided I made a video about ways to get organs in, and there are ways that I actually use. There is a great company that is called Pluck, Pluck, and they make a seasoning, and it's got Redmond sea salt in it, and it's got a couple other spices in it, but then it's got dehydrated heart, liver, spleen, kidney, and pancreas
And there's a
all mixed
seasoning.
into this spice. Yeah, so
I
I
love
just keep a
it.
container of it by my stove. I put it on scrambled eggs. I put it in ground beef. I figured, a little bit along the way is, can't hurt. You can also take liver and partially freeze it, take it out, and then make it into small little pill-sized cubes. lay it flat and freeze it. Once it's frozen, gather it up and put it in a container, keep it in your freezer, and you can just pop them like a pill.
That's a good idea. I've never thought of that, making
Yeah.
your own liver supplements.
Yeah. So I went through a video just kind of showing all the different options for getting organs for those of us who don't love organs. And so let's just segue though over to the vitamin C topic.
Yeah,
People say,
please.
yeah, what do you mean? You're not eating citrus fruit. Where are you getting your vitamin C? You're going to get scurvy. I was like,
Right.
well,
That's exactly what my friend said. Aren't they getting
yeah.
scurvy? Yeah.
Yeah, so here I am, 16 years in, not a single fruit or vegetable, eating meat, seafood, eggs, cheese, and water, and I don't have scurvy.
So, is
And
there sufficient amounts of vitamin C in animal protein?
there is some, and also there's a remarkably less need when you're not eating carbohydrates to have vitamin C.
Why
So
is that?
yeah, it's because of the metabolism, but go if you go onto YouTube and type in carnivore scurvy or carnivore and vitamin C, you'll get some pretty interesting detailed videos about it. But and so now let me segue into, me being who I am and very analytical and going down the rabbit hole of all these things. I was learning that through evolution, humans lost the ability to produce our own vitamin C, whereas all these other things like vitamin D, we can produce, right, in our bodies. We don't have to supplement. We don't have to supplement anything really that our bodies can make. So just the fact that we have over time through evolution, from what I understand, from what I've researched, lost the ability to make our own vitamin C. I thought, you know what? Maybe there might be something of value to vitamin C supplementation. And when I really dug into it, and you could go down a lot of rabbit holes with vitamin C and immunity and cancer and viral healing and all sorts of very, very interesting things, I was like, I think there's something valid to vitamin C supplementation. And it has nothing to do with scurvy, has nothing to do with, oh, I'm eating carnivore, I got to take vitamins. Because, like I said, I haven't really taken any for the 15 years I've been doing this. But yeah, so I've looked into, I do not take ascorbic acid. I do not take the pill form because, of course, through my research, lipospheric vitamin C, it's a gel and you
Hmm.
just put it a little tiny bit of water and you don't mix it at all. It's just kind of like a little glob and you shoot it down and it's the most bioavailable, best form of vitamin C. And so, yeah, that's what I do. And I always tell my group members, I'm not here to give you medical advice. And all I can tell you is my research and what I do and what I feel is the right thing to do. And, try it if you believe in it. And I always hope that people research it for themselves too. But
You take
there,
magnesium.
you know, I only recommend like magnesium glycinate for like people who have like problems with their sleep.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, inositol is good for that, and glycine for sleep issues. But here's the thing, Tamara, the one thing that I say about any of these supplements, and my gosh, you go on social media and everybody's selling their own supplements and oh, you need creatine. Are you a weightlifter? You need creatine. I'm like, all right, there's creatine in meat and eggs. Right? Why do I have to purchase something that a company actually manufactured, somehow got into a capsule, put it into this plastic thing onto a shelf in my store, and now I got to pop this?
Mhm.
Why do I feel like that is necessary? And most importantly, when you really dig into supplements, um, your body has to bioregulate anything you put in, it has to have a counter reaction too. So if you're putting in sodium, potassium, magnesium, your body has to register what the heck you're doing and compensate for it now. So it's not just this magical thing like, ooh, magnesium, great, let me just use it up. Awesome, awesome. No, you know what? It has to, we're fine-tuned machines. And like my main philosophy with everything is that you can't put anything in without there being a potential side effect to it. And I don't mean like a negative side effect. I'm talking about what your body has to do to compensate for it. So
Mm.
why am I not? I mean, I am very confident that there's plenty of creatine, taurine, selenium, all this stuff that I need is in meat, eggs, and seafood. And why am I buying this stuff? Why do I feel like man on earth? Where is he buying magnesium in a box?
That's when you can always bring it back to that point, and you're like, oh, of course. Like you can kind of answer your own questions if you just go
Yeah,
back to how early
yeah, they
man
can
did
they
things.
can find, salt is natural to earth. There's, salt licks and, yeah, you
Mm,
could say there's and some people in the carnivore community don't use salt either. Salt can be addictive. They
mm,
found people eat 11% more when the food is salted than non-salted.
wow.
And so it's really interesting, all of these things. But the one thing I will say, Tamara, is with throughout many, many years of doing this, of people who are what I call you carny curious, because you're on the edge of carnivore, you're very
Same.
heavily meat
Mm,
based, but giving up that last 10% of vegetation will give
exactly. That's where I'm at.
will
Yeah.
give you another 90% benefit to how you feel.
Seriously. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
you know what?
motivating.
Do it for 90 days.
Do you
Then
find
decide.
Do you find when your community, when they cross over to carnivore, do you find that they have trouble going to the toilet at first? Because I imagine when anyone changes their diet at all, like to anything, there's some difficulties in that department. But then, I mean, can you talk about that a bit more? Because I think people are a bit afraid of that side of
Yeah. And
things.
I say, don't be afraid. Your body is just doing what it needs to do to acclimate for you getting off the crap and getting to a healthy diet.
Mm.
Most people it takes 4 to 6 weeks to transition into fat adapted. Some people 4 to 6 months, depends on
Mhm.
what your prior diet was. Some people, yes, will have loose stools. And I just say, you know what, just eat some leaner cuts of meat first and don't go heavy on the butter and the fat. Also, loose stools will come about from rendered warm fat, not typically solid fat. So if you make a burger and you put it on a plate and you put it in the refrigerator and the next morning and you take the burger out, eat the burger cold with that solid congealed fat, that's fine. It's the warm liquid fat that a lot of us carnivores pour back over our burgers and eat with our food because high fat is healthy. It's so healthy. And you really want a high fat diet because that will help get you into ketosis and have all the health benefits of that. But yeah, and constipation for some people, I say stop the dairy and bump up your fat, eat some more bacon, have some pork belly. Um, there's lots of ways to do it. You can take beef tallow and whisk it. I say beef tallow and butter and whisk it into bone broth, and it's delicious. And it will help move things along if you're constipated. Um, the other big bone of contention for so many addicted people is the coffee.
Right.
And
I've just finished
people
mine. Should we not be drinking coffee?
it's so not good for you. It's a seed and yeah, you're basically it's a roasted burnt seed that's crushed and boiling water poured over it and now you're bathing your microbiome in it every day. And um at the very, very least, you should never have coffee until you have your first meal of the day. And most people want to wake up and have their coffee. Well, that's probably why you don't have much of a appetite because it's an appetite suppressant to a certain extent. But yeah, the people that are in the know in the community, caffeine is definitely an addiction. It's a pesticide, and it's not a health food. So no, nobody wants to, and it does disrupt your sleep, and it has a like 14-hour half-life. So even if you stop your coffee by noon, I don't know, most people will have one in the morning or two in the morning and have one or two during the day. And then yeah, it attaches to your adenosine receptors. There's a lot of information about it, but people will say, oh no, I heard coffee's good for high blood pressure and coffee's good for that and coffee's for this. And I was like, well, you know what? The coffee lobby industry is pouring a lot of money into getting people to believe their addictive drink is actually beneficial. But water, I mean, if you were an animal. You don't see any squirrels or seagulls going for their coffee. You don't see tigers and lions and giraffes and anything going for their coffee, their caffeine addiction, their drug. It's not natural to our bodies. And yeah, I know I don't win any popularity contest for that, but trust me, I love coffee. I was a coffee addict, like definitely had my cup every day, drank it through college, drank it through grad school, even drank it. I switched to decaf when I got pregnant because, of course, you're not supposed to have caffeine when you're pregnant. And now I maybe once a month I'll have a decaf when I'm at a restaurant and everybody at the table's ordering desserts and passing desserts around, and I will just sit there and sip my little decaf and that's it. But yeah, I had a feeling you were a coffee drinker, Tamara.
Yeah. And it's all the jitters.
I have within the past really 6 months realized it's equally important. I used to think, yeah, it's 95% what you're putting in your mouth is it all, but it's not. It's earthing, getting your feet on the ground, which you of course are able to do where you are, but every
Yes.
single day we should be getting the electrons from earth, whether you're touching plants and trees with your hands, even touching animals that are on the ground is earthing.
Do you know Dr. Sarah Pugh?
Yes, yes,
She was a guest on the podcast and she absolutely blew my mind. Like, 'cause she's very scientific with the way that she
yeah.
speaks. And oh my God, like she completely transforms the way I see like grounding, light. And she was incredible. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like it's such a fascinating topic. So just to kind of wrap things up then, how can people follow you? Because there's so much information that you're putting out there, so much content. So how can people get to that?
Yeah, so I post a lot on Instagram, like I'll post my meals sometimes. I'll post information on there, but mostly I go live every week on YouTube.
Mhm.
My channel is Carnivore Doctor, and I also host a private member group where I go live 4 times a week and speak directly with the group of people that are in there, and they get all questions answered. I keep the group small enough. And we have challenges in there. We have, I'll be doing January's World Carnivore Month. So I always
Mm.
pull people in to say, come on, you're going to stick to 30 days. And we have an accountability and support section. We have a sardine challenge section. We have a book club. Actually, so right now we're reading this book, Defeat Your Cravings. And we have an ongoing book club if anybody joins into that. And I have separate meetings um, for that. And yeah, it's really just an incredible kind of way to stay connected because I'll tell you, I've said this many times. I never would have made it into this without the group I connected with. And being in a group is so important because this is very isolating
It
because
is, yeah.
I don't have friends that do this, and my family, as much as how hard I try to convince them to do this to get healthy, no, their addictions were too strong and their motivation wasn't high enough, even though they're all diabetic and overweight and multiple other health issues, I just got to be able to witness their slow suicide, which is horrible. There's Parkinson's, dementia, macular degeneration, diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure. I'm just naming a few of what my parents, I had to witness. And so it's important. The group is just so great to be able to come in and just talk with a whole bunch of people that are, really intelligent, inquisitive, found their way to this way of eating and just want to converse and have conversations like I just had with you about all sorts of different topics. So that's really the best way is between YouTube and my member group, and I'll give you links to that. And I'm hosting a carb sober cruise every single winter. I have about 120 animal based eaters. You don't have to be carnivore, just any meat based. And I have discussions with the staff on the ship about no seed oils in our food because that's extremely toxic. And so I host a cruise every year. This one coming up is February 1st through 7th of 2025. And other than that, if you get on my email list, I post where I go throughout the country. I host meetups where we just have a meal. Like I have one next Friday at Fogo de Chao. I'm flying down to Fort Lauderdale,
Mm,
Florida, because I'm heading out on a cruise for my 60th birthday.
lovely.
And so, yeah, so I host meetups wherever I go because it's all about community and it's just very empowering to be with other people who are like-minded.
Yeah, and you're just spreading the word so far and wide, and you're just doing such a great job. And in the beginning, before we pressed record, you said how busy you are and how it's really like everything you're doing is just getting so like, I need help. But I'm so happy for you. Like I'm happy that you're living your truth and you're walking the walk, and it's just such an inspiration. So right now, I'm gonna get home, get my steaks out the freezer, make sure I'm prepared because that's my biggest problem. I'm never prepared. So that's when I'm like, oh, I need to eat something, but it's in the freezer. And so I just need
Yeah,
to
well,
get
I would
better
say
at that.
make double. I mean, I
Mm,
know you're cooking for meals for your gym attendees and stuff, but
yes.
you have to have multiple made for yourself. I always tell people, especially at the beginning, have your favorite like grilled pork chops, grilled
Yes.
steaks, even I love cold steak and cold burgers, but and you can have a stack of burgers in your freezer and just throw them into your air fryer for 6 minutes and they're done,
Mm,
right from
mm,
frozen. You
yeah.
always have a quick meal. I also do hard-boiled eggs and I put them in a jar of pickle juice and I have pickled hard-boiled eggs that are just great to snack on. Yeah, I have a YouTube video called How to Tackle Your Cravings or the Top 10 Ways to Tackle Your Cravings. And it's like one of my most popular videos. And I literally in my kitchen, I think it's an hour and a half long, but I went through each station that I set up showing different things you can do to get yourself into this whole carnivore way of life.
Oh, so if it's out there, I'm sure people can, see that because it just sounds, yeah, great and inspirational. And yeah, I mean, I always get so motivated after conversations like this. So I'm definitely gonna, head off, maybe even up my carnivore game just a little bit more because you said that last, 10% is everything. So
Yeah,
yeah, let me get on it.
yeah. Get rid of the plants. They're trying to kill you.
Plants are trying to kill you. Oh God. People are gonna be like, oh no, they won't. They won't. If they've gone this far in the episode, they won't.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much, Lisa. I hope we can
Yeah.
do this again
Yeah.
soon.
Thanks for having me.